We are live.
Hi everyone, this is Priyanka. I'm COO at CENTA. Welcome to this particular session being conducted by us, where the facilitator is Miss Sarika Chunni. She's a special educator and has been TPO winner during multiple sessions or during multiple editions of TPO. I really hope you would have a wonderful session today. Over to you, Sarika. Thank you.
All right. Um, Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Um, I hope I am audible to everyone. And I this is my first time holding such a webinar with CENTA, and in fact on this platform itself. So I hope all of us have a good experience, and all of us learn something good at the end of it all. So before I begin, as Priyanka told you, I am a special educator, and the topic that I've chosen to talk to everyone about today is inclusive education, or making learning accessible for all. I'm pretty sure that all of us who are here today are working in the education sector in some way or the other, are either parents of children who are studying in schools, or are teachers who are teaching in schools. Uh, and we and all of us, especially right now, in this time of COVID, I was thinking how accessibility has become such a difficult thing for us in today's day and age, given corona, and given its impact. So we have all understood a little bit what things being inaccessible are like. So this is probably the first time in a lot of our lives that we are dealing with such a situation on such a large scale. Uh, but today's session is dedicated to including individuals who have been facing such inaccessibility since a very long time. So that is what we are going to talk about today. Before I start, let me just check if I am accessible to all. Okay. So, this very first slide, I hope all of you can see this. Um, Janki, is everyone able to see this?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are able to see your screen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the very first screen that I have that I'm showing you is actually a GIF, a GIF that shows us what the experience of a child, or an individual with a learning disability or a learning difficulty in reading uh, faces when they are faced with text on the screen. So this was actually created by an individual who herself has dyslexia, and this is a simulation of what the person sees, or how difficult it becomes for the individual to read text. So let us first dive into some simulations. So this is going to take me to an external link. I'll I'll share that screen with you as well. Just a second. All right. So So as all of you can see, this is a decoding activity, and it is asking us to do something that we take for granted, that a lot of us take for granted. Whenever we see an alphabet, our mind automatically tells us what sound it will create. And for example, we know that goat is made up of g, o, t, right? And when we read when we see those visual symbols of the letters, our brain connects it to the sound and we can read. But what happens when this basic skill called decoding does not come automatically to someone? So this is a small simulation that will tell you what it is like for a child who is not able to connect the symbols of or the alphabets to the sounds in in a way that we are more used to. So for this exercise, when you see Q, you have to pronounce it as D or T. When you see Z, you have to pronounce it as M, P as D, and B as P, Y S as ER, A as in A. You have to pronounce A as E is in pet, and E as in A, right? So it's very confusing. Even the instructions are very confusing. Now let's begin. So here the key is given to you on the top, and you can take around. I'll give you 30 seconds. It's not even 30 seconds actually. It's a very small passage, and this is how what we do in classes, or when what we do with our students. We say this is very simple. Why don't you try hard? Do it quickly. Do it fast. Come on. So keeping all those things that we generally say to children in mind, I'd like you to read this as fast as you can, and your time starts now. I'll keep the timer also here, so you can see the time passing. Right, so that's been 30 seconds. I'm pretty sure a lot of you would not have been able to move beyond the second or the third line by now. This is what experience. This is what dyslexia is for someone who experiences difficulty with reading or decoding written language. This was the translation. We begin our trip at a familiar place, a body like yours and mine. It contains 100 trillion cells that work together by design. And within each one of these many cells, each one that has DNA, that DNA code is exactly the same, a mass-produced resume. So the code in each cell is identical, a remarkable but valid claim. This means that the cells are nearly alike, but not nearly the same, not exactly the same. Take, for instance, the cells of the intestines, that they are vital is certainly plain. Now think about the way you would think if those cells were the cells in your brain. This was a small experience of what dyslexia is like. Now we are going to go through another small simulation for a child who has difficulty with attention. You would often see this child in your classroom, whose stares go blank, and you know that you're not connecting with this child. They have gone off somewhere else. So a lot of children have these difficulties. It's not necessary to always give them a label of ADHD or attention deficit. Even we, during our, when we are stressed or when we have too much on our mind, even we experience attention issues. So let's keep these difficulties in mind that all of us at some time or the other face. So let's go here, read the passage, and you have to answer the questions that follow.
Hello, Sarika, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt. But ma'am,
Okay.
our audience are not able to hear as there is some background noise running. It's most probably a noise of a fan or something. So, ma'am,
All
can
right.
you just try to reduce the noise?
Okay. Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah,
it is
yes,
it better now? Is it
yeah,
better?
yeah. It's still
All right.
visible a little bit, ma'am. Yeah, yeah, but it's better now, ma'am. It's better now. Yeah. Oh,
Okay. Actually, there's just
yeah.
one. It's not that loud. It's just that I'm sitting in a room, and probably this headphone is too sensitive, so it's catching all the noise. It's not that noisy in here.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yes, ma'am. So yeah, it's better now. And ma'am, can you please zoom in the things that you're showing? Yeah, from now
Okay.
on.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, sure.
I'll try. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We can continue now.
Yes, I'm just trying to open it in another window. Just a
Yeah, yeah,
second.
sure.
All right. So this is. I hope the screen is visible. I've increased the size of the font, and I'm sure you understand how all these things are really important when you're presenting or when you are showing it. I mean, because you all are experiencing this firsthand, you understand the feeling of not being able to read small fonts. This is especially true for younger children who need even bigger fonts. I don't know what's wrong with this. Yeah. Okay. So I would like all of you to read this, and you have to write down the answer for the first question. What was Tom trying but failing to fasten? How many students were in Tom's class? As you can see, it becomes more difficult for a child who is constantly distracted by the audiovisual stimulation from around him. Like right now, you were getting disturbed with the audio stimulation, the sound of the fan from here. Um, of course, as I said, these headphones are really sensitive, so probably they're catching more sound from the fan. You can also take this in a way that a child who has such issues has particularly sensitive ears or particularly sensitive eyes or particularly sensitive mind that catches all this extra stimulation very easily. So all these children are there in our class. The reason I'm telling you is that all of us, face such issues at some time or the other in life, and some children have this uh, at a at a more at a more regular level. So difficulties with mathematics, right? So this is another issue that children will face in classes. I'll just share the screen with you. many students with difficulties find with math disabilities find complex multi-step math problems particularly difficult. So these kinds of problems generally come across a student's life after, say, fourth grade, and when the problems get more difficult and there are more steps to the problems, and a lot of these children, they face problems doing such math questions. Um, and the ability to perform multiple operations in the proper sequence. For example, adding and then multiplying in a long multiplication problem, or even in division when you have to find out whether that number is a factor, and then you have to write it down in the proper place, subtract it. Like, there are lots of steps to even a division problem in a long division problem. So these things are very important, and trying to remember all these steps is very critical to a child's success in mathematics. So the problem that's there on the next page is designed to make you understand the the fear or the frustration a young student with a math disability might feel when they are asked to work a problem that has a number of steps. uh, you will be given a minute to solve these three problems. I'm going to click begin to take the quiz. I have put the timer here, so just so you know the time. The instructions are all given here. I hope they are all clearly visible now to everyone. I'll try increasing the size a little bit more. Okay, yes. So, as you can see, there are three problems here. You have a minute to solve them. You have there are four steps to each problem. So in problem one, first you have to multiply the third number in the first row by the seventh number in the third row. Then you have to add this result to the fifth number in the second row. Then you have to add to this total 10 times the fourth number in the third row. God, this is so confusing even to me that I'm reading it. Subtract the eighth number, and finally you have to subtract the eighth number in the first row from the result. And remember that these steps are the same for all three problems. So ideally, the thing is that the more you practice, you'll probably remember it. But for a lot of children, it's difficult to get, because these steps seem very similar. So it's very simple. It's very easy to get confused between the steps, or to muddle up those steps, or to mix up those steps. And the 1 minute is over. I wonder how many of you could solve all the three problems. I'm pretty sure not a lot. In fact, I don't think anyone could, unless you're a math genius. And if you are, congratulations. But a lot of students aren't. I am not. A lot of teachers aren't as well. So these three were just small simulations to help you understand what a child faces in a regular classroom. Different issues that children might face. So some common difficulties students face in classrooms are, just made a word cloud here with a lot of things in it. Um, there will be some children in your class who are, physically everything is okay with them, but maybe they are not able to comprehend things well. They are not able to comprehend language. Their spoken skills are not good, or they are, that we say that they're weak in this. Or there might be some children who are running around the class or hyperactive. The reason I'm avoiding, labeling a child is because, first of all, this is not a teacher's job. Our job is not to label. Our job is to identify the issue and then try to get it solved, or try to get a solution for it. So the labeling part, I would like to leave it to the clinical psychologists. I would like to leave it to the professionals. It's not our job. Of course, we can, if we see a child who is struggling, and if we know what the warning signs are, it is our duty to inform the parents. It's our duty to inform the relevant authorities, and help and make them help the child, or get the child evaluated in a proper way. But I don't think it is our job to label any child, and it shouldn't be so as well. Uh, it should be because the minute you label something, um, what happens is you start focusing on the disability rather than the ability. And we as teachers, our job is to use the abilities, not highlight the disabilities in someone. It's only when you are able to help someone use their abilities that you are able to get the best out of them. For now, I would like you all to go to menti.com and type the code 15 1985, or you can even scan the QR code, but I'll have to change this window, so I would suggest you go to menti.com and type in 15 1985. You will see an opinion poll, more like it's a word cloud generator. There is a small image there, which when you click on it, it will enlarge and you'll be able to see a small cartoon of two children trying to do something. Um, and the question is, what is the word or phrase that comes to your mind at this picture? So let me just type a test here. Just a second. Excellent. So I'll just share this with you. Um, just a second. Need to open a new window. Okay. So these are all the things that people have come up with. It's solved the puzzle. It's systematic. It's imagination. Student studying, comprehension, organized, difference. That's a good word. Aeroplane, unclear. Hands-on paired activity. One gives instruction, and the other follows. Okay. Solve the puzzle. Imagination. All right. Process oriented. Um, I would like I would share the image with you once more, and now I would like you to just have a look at how these children are doing what they're doing. So if you see, both the children have thought bubbles in their head, where one child is going stepwise. She's actually reading the steps from an instruction booklet and connecting all those steps together and building that plane. You will see what the other child is doing. He's doing something very intuitively, right? He doesn't need that instruction booklet. So this is something that I think Miss Pearl Loco had conducted a session on multiple intelligences that connects to that. Not only does it connects to learning styles, it connects to differentiated learning. I believe there was a session on that as well. So there are different ways that a person learns, or different ways that a person views and sees things. So this is what I was trying to look for learning styles actually in this, and trying to look for differentiated learning, or something to do with learning differences, or how these children are learning differently, right? Now I'm going to share another. I'm going to ask you to go to Mentimeter again. Um, and Now I would like you to go to the next question. I'm going to share what the question is with you. Um, the code remains the same. It's 151985. Question is, this is you will take as many boxes that you want, or that you feel holds true for inclusive education, right? As many boxes as you feel holds true for inclusive education. So what holds true for inclusive education? The phrase inclusive education. The first option is it provides meaningful learning opportunities to all learners. Second, it provides equal opportunities in access, participation and learning. Third, it is meant specifically for children with disabilities. Then it provides special education services to children with special needs. Or finally, it benefits all the children in a class with various abilities. So I'm just going to randomly click on some options here, right? And I'm going to submit it myself. Right, so the results are there. So I'm going to share the results with all of you. Right. Um, okay. So majority of the people, I suppose, know what inclusive education means. The key word here is all. Inclusive means including everyone. So the first thing is that it provides meaningful learning opportunities to all learners. Then it provides equal opportunities in access, participation, and learning. Access means that every student has access to the course material. So if you are, say for instance, giving a text, or making a giving a document to a child that has things written in red and red and blue or red and green ink, then you have to keep in mind that it might not be accessible to a child who is colorblind. Right, a colorblind child will not be able to read it. So it is not being accessible to that child in your class. It encourages participation for everyone and learning for everyone. Um, Inclusive education, this is a popular myth that it is meant for children with disabilities, or that children with certain needs are supposed to be segregated in a special class, or they are supposed to be taken to a special educator where they're supposed to be taught. No, inclusive education means that all children with any kinds of issues will be studying in the same classroom, under the same roof, in the same class, with the same opportunities and be able to access the material taught in class, participate in the class, and have equal opportunities. Okay, inclusive education. Um, it doesn't necessarily provide special inclusive education doesn't mean that you have to provide special education services to children. I mean, it's not required that your school have a special educator for it to be inclusive. I feel that uh, inclusive education will succeed the day that this job of a special educator doesn't even have to exist. Of course, there are certain profound disabilities for which children can go later on and take therapies, but in a regular classroom, it's not required. And finally, it benefits all the children in the class with various abilities. So I just wanted to sort of gauge what the the audience's perception about inclusive education is before I go ahead. So thank you so much for participating here. I'm going to move ahead now, and okay. So what does inclusion look like in a classroom? Inclusion is about all students belonging. That means that no student should feel left out. Even if there is a child in a wheelchair in your class, he can be asked to go out and sit uh, during the sports games, or be asked to participate in the sporting event in some way or the other. There is always a way to make a child feel like they belong. Decisions made on the basis of student needs and not on labels and places. So decisions in an inclusive setup are made on the basis of student needs and not on labels, or what they are, if they are visually impaired, or if they have issues with reading, or if they are hyperactive. So these labels should be avoided, and instead the need should be looked at. So this child needs uh, something to utilize his energy, or this child needs something to work with while he is doing. He needs to do something with his hands while he's studying. So that's a need, not that he is hyperactive. Because the minute you start looking at a disability, you sort of come at a roadblock, and you cannot look forward, or you cannot look ahead and find solutions. So it's always good to look at the needs instead of labels. Expectations are high. Inclusion or children with special needs it doesn't mean that you are um, expected to whatever, stay behind, or not do anything. In fact, there's a very good a YouTube channel called Special Books for Special Kids, sbsk.com, which all of you can visit. I'll put it later on. I'll put it on my Padlet as well. Um, I would request someone later on to give you a link of the Padlet. I have included a lot of links there and a lot of resources related to inclusive education that will not only help children who have specific needs, but it will generally help you as well. I'll give you an example of some of those tools later on. Instruction is based on the common board curriculum specific for the grade, and individualized supports are available when needed. Right? So in case a child needs individualized support, I'm not saying that inclusive education should just leave the child in the middle of the ocean and without a float, or without a life jacket. So if it's required, of course, it is always there. So what is the key word here, which is accessibility? If you look at this cartoon, it shows it very well. Um, Here's this waiter asking this man in a wheelchair to maneuver his wheelchair over this really topsy-turvy ramp-like thing, and he says, "Of course, we have wheelchair access." Right? So this is actually a satirical cartoon, um, and it shows how we might think that we are helping someone, but uh, our
Uh,
our
Good
yes,
evening, Sarika ma'am.
yes.
Hi, Karthik here. So just wanted to check if there are questions coming in. So would you want to take the questions now, or would you want to take it on later?
Can I just move to just let me come to universal design for learning and another 6 slides, and I'll take all the questions then because I'm
Sure,
still
sure,
like
sure.
on that.
Great. So we'll just
It
take all the
will,
questions. Sure,
yes,
sure,
I'll stop in the middle and I'll
sure.
take all the
We'll
questions. Right?
sure, sure, sure. We'll do that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So now that I've told you all about inclusion, I'd like to speak to you about some foundational theories that support inclusion. The number one theory, of course, is differentiated instruction. We've all heard of it. I'm pretty sure you all know what differentiated instruction is. This image really shows it well. How this one child is looking is a which is like more like a visual person. He's actually when she closes her eyes, she's actually looking at the pie in her head. She's looking at the image of the pie. This other child is writing it down. He's more wordy. He's more inclined to writing things down. The other girl is actually imagining the taste of the pie. So she probably must be more tactile or more interested in sensation. So when we are in a class, we come across these different learners. Now, what's important for us to remember is to not straight jacket a child in a particular learning style, which a lot of us can be sometimes mistakenly we can do. Because not it's not necessary that if I learn my tables through recorded lessons. It's not necessary that if I learn my tables recorded, I learn about the anatomy of say a frog by listening to it as well. So not all material can be turned to audio. Of course, we can make it if someone's mode is more audio uh, tuned to more oral ideas, then they can get that. But it's not always necessary that a child will follow a single learning style. It's a mix of a lot of styles. So differentiated learning instruction is very good, but I always think that it's important that we
Uh,
give our children choices. Yes.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but can we try removing the headphones and see if the voice is still audible over the speaker? I think if the headphones are causing the echo, then probably if we just get rid of the headphones and then see.
Okay. Yeah. Let me try. Let me try.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Hello. Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. You
Yes, you
are.
are. Has the echo gone?
The background noise is still there, a little bit of it.
Okay, I don't know whether it's just a fan actually, and it's really hot here. So let me just try this. Okay, I'll just try the sound in. Okay, now is the
Uh,
background noise?
we There's this, yeah. There's still a little bit of background noise, still a little bit of it. But I think if you speak a bit more loudly, it will, that'll get compensated.
Okay, okay, fine. Um, yeah. So let me just go back to that. I think I accidentally closed the presentation window. Just a second. Right. I'm not going to go into. I hope I'm audible now, Karthik. Hello.
Yes, much better, much better than
Okay.
before.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to now go to the next slide, and I will not really, focus on this a lot because these are just theories that we have to sort of understand in a cursory way. You can read up about these theories later on. Culturally responsive teaching, which is again, about including everyone and understanding the diversity of our classroom, especially in a country like India, where children come from various regions, different parts of the country, or if it's an international school, even globally. Um, so culturally responsive teaching keeps the culture in mind, and it draws on the students' culture to make the curriculum and the instruction and everything within the class responsive to that culture, right? Okay. Uh, the next is brain-based research. Okay, so brain-based research is basically relatively new field in education because it combines neuroscience and psychology. And of late, there has been a lot of research. People through functional MRIs and other means, scientists have been able to see exactly what part of our brain works when we do particular things. So this has led to a lot of very good insights, and some of them are just mentioned in the clouds here, such as mirror neurons, genetics, and life experiences, how they shape our brain. Some of it is genetics, some of it could be is life experiences, emotions and learning, metacognition. What part metacognition, as you must know, is the um, what metacognition means is the ability to be able to think about our thinking, in simpler words. So, metacognition, there has been a lot of research on that as well. Then brain plasticity. Brain plasticity basically means how our brain really changes with the more practice we do. For example, you might have seen people who probably were right-handed, but then they started practicing with their left hand, and they became ambidextrous. They could write with both hands. Or people who lose a particular sense, and they train the other sense to work for it. Or in a lot of other ways, we train our brain in a way to sort of our brain changes is what brain plasticity means. So these are brain-based researches. Citizenship in the classroom. This is another theory that basically talks about how a child needs to be a fully an owner, of his or her education, and only then can they learn. So, what is this full concept of full citizenship? Where every child in the class has belief in his or her ability to think. They believe in their own individuality. They believe in the reciprocity of relationship, and there is a shared space, place. So this would probably be, more on the uh, not on the cognitive, but more on the social cultural educational theory side uh, of education. Now we come to universal design for learning, right? Which is what I'll be mainly talking about today. Um, so, what does universal design mean? I hope the image here, the cartoon, is visible to everyone. It was inspired by a public school student who had certain disabilities, in which a man is seen shoveling the snow off stairs, and a child on the wheelchair asks him if he could shovel the ramp first. So the man says that first I will shovel the stairs and then I will come to the ramp. So the child says, but if you shovel the ramp, then we can all get in through the ramp, right? So the basic motto of the idea behind this cartoon is that clearing a path for people with special needs clears the path for everyone. The term universal design, by the way, it's not just used in education. Universal design means that universal design websites use the principle of using universal design. Everything around us these days has certain principles. Even the currency notes have principles of universal design now. So if you must have seen, the currency notes have these little, you know, um, uh, textures on the side of it, which are meant to make the currency notes accessible to people with visual problems, visual disabilities. So this was coined by Ron Mace, an architect and wheelchair user. So universal design, according to him, was a set of principles that not only benefits people with disabilities but also has a positive effect for many non-disabled people. He said that there is a spillover effect that can help other people as well. Let's see how. So you all must have seen this curb cuts. They were initially started so that wheelchair people with wheelchair could get on these sidewalks. But of course, we all know that we can take our shopping carts easily. We are carrying a stroller with a child in it. It becomes easy for us. So there's a spillover effect benefit for us as well. Similar to large print, which is helpful for not only for people with visual problems or who cannot see that well, but also for children who are learning to read. Big letters on a very black and white, high contrast font. It's very easy for the eyes to read. Um, these signs you must have all seen. These are universal signage that help. That we don't need to really know how to read to understand it. It helps people who speak different languages and also to those who can't read. Closed captions. Initially, these closed captions were invented for people with hearing impairment because they couldn't obviously read the lips of everything in the screen. So, but now they are used as a tool by those learning to read, or if you're not familiar with that language and the movie is in, you can use it. Or you are in an environment where you can't really listen to the sound loudly, so you can mute it and you can read the captions and see. So it obviously has had a spillover effect for everyone. So there are three main principles of universal design. After I'm done with this and the next slide, I will take some questions. So principles of universal design are providing multiple means of engagement. That is the first principle. There's no actually order, but basically the three principles are providing multiple means of engagement, providing multiple means of representation, and providing multiple means of action and expression. What engagement? What by engagement? What you mean is um, engagement. When there is a student in your class, you're presenting something, you would want them to be interested in what you are teaching, motivated for learning. So when you have different kinds of children in your class, when you design a lesson with universal design in mind, you want to present content that engages everyone, or you want to make your class environment in a manner that engages everyone in the class. Multiple means of representation, you can view this as input, the input that teacher gives. So whenever you give information, you have to present information and content in different ways. So you must have seen that in my presentation I've used a lot of pictures, and I've used limited text, and I'm of course speaking. So I'm more or less taking care of a lot of modalities, uh, or different modalities. Some people might understand better with a picture, or with this graphic representation. Some people might understand better with words written, and some people might just like to listen to the voice, and they'll be better informed. So that these are multiple means of representation. There are various other ways. We'll get to those in a little bit. Providing multiple means of action and expression. So students need to be given different options in which different ways in which they can express themselves. That they may uh, uh, like I gave you the option of first you had to write these words in different ways. In a classroom, of course, we are in a you know remote situation, but in a classroom there are other ways as well, asking children to draw something or asking them to perform something. So a lot of you are already doing these things, but when you are designing a lesson, keeping all these things in mind with the needs of the children of your class in mind, that is universal design. In addition to this, there is one more thing: providing multiple means of assessment. So this was not a part of the original universal design for learning principles. It was added later on, uh, because of course assessment is an important part of our current modern educational system. So how can we assess children? uh, in fact, we've already with CCE there were formative assessments and summative assessments, so we already know what we already have the ingredients. So look at UDL, like you have a set of different ingredients with different formative, summative assessments, different types of learn ways to engage children, and you have to create a lesson with all these ingredients, adding them all in your recipe so that it tastes good to everyone in your class. That there is no one child who says, "Oh, I like spicy food," but there was no spice in that. So I'm trying to give you a very strange example, but I hope you understand what UDL stands for. So now I will take some questions and then we will move ahead. Okay, Anuradha Paul, what would be
Sure.
an ideal class then for inclusive education for the children with special needs? Okay, how inclusive practices would be implemented? I can read that, it just disappeared very fast. So the first question, what would be the ideal class
Sure. Maybe
size?
we'll just start. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the first question was, what would be the ideal class size? Of course, the
Maybe
ideal
we'll
class
just start off with the earlier questions, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so the first question I'm answering now. So the first question was, what would be the ideal class size for inclusive education? The ideal class size for inclusive education will be the ideal class size for regular education, which is what the RTE specifies. That there should be not more than 30 children per teacher, because that's what that's the ideal amount. Many more than that, it's difficult for the teacher to manage. So the ideal class size is the regular class size for inclusive education. It's not any different than any other kind of education. Or regular education should not be differentiated. How inclusive practices would be implemented, special educators is not available in the school. Okay. So inclusive practices. If special educator is not there in the school, I agree it becomes a little difficult. It becomes quite difficult, in fact, if people are not aware of the disability or the problems that child face, and if the child has really um, you know a great need to work on their daily living skills. If their daily functioning is not good, or up to par for them to study in a regular classroom, then first the child needs to work on that, because if you look at the different levels of, or whenever a clinical psychologist conducts this something called developmental quotient, right? So you start off with physical skills, gross motor, fine motor. Then you come to how, if the child trained to take care of themselves, can they go to the toilet on their own, can they, so all these things are, they come first. So if the child faces difficulty with those very things, then they need to be helped with that. And of course, a school where mostly, well, not mostly, but actually only academic education is provided, this is not the right place for a child to do that. If the child has difficulty with daily living skills, they will have to go to a therapist, they will have to go to a special educator. And while they are doing that, the child can also be enrolled in the regular school. Maybe while they are doing that, they can get remote lessons from schools. And once they start benefiting from the therapy, they can come to school. They can come for a limited amount of time. So all these benefits are given by law according to the PWD Act 2016, according to CBSE. So all these exemptions and provisions are given to children for a reason. They are not asked to have a limited uh, whatever, to a given 75% attendance. They're not limited for that, and so there are lots of provisions which I'll not want to cover here. But yeah, uh, it can be managed. Is inclusive learning for life skills? Of course, it is very much possible. Inclusive learning is about life skills. In fact, life skills, why should it be separated from uh, learning at all? It is a part of life. Inclusive learning leads to life skills. Definitely. I hope I answered that question. Okay. So a lot of
Sure.
people don't take inclusive education seriously, or they treat special needs students as a burden. How to overcome this? Um, well, I would really. This is a difficult question, because this is not. This is not something that can be corrected by just giving a lecture and then expecting people to change their mindset. I think it's something that we can only learn when we are in that situation. So in fact, I feel that whenever I have seen in schools where children are studying with special needs students along with them, they become more empathetic. They become more understanding of children with special needs. And I believe that this empathy building is very essential to build, uh, future generations of children who don't take these children as a burden, or who don't have that same sort of mindset. So probably I am not sure why, but probably because we never had people who take these children, special needs children, as a burden, have never experienced such a situation in the past before where they were studying with a special needs child in a school. So probably uh, having that now will change things for the future. And as far as current situation is concerned, we can all do our best at our level and hope that we can make a small change. That's How do we as teachers persuade the parents who believe that children with special needs should be admitted to special schools? Okay, so I'm not saying special schools are completely unnecessary. There are children with profound disabilities. There are certain criteria for that. In fact, there was a session conducted with Dr. Subramanian, I think, who discussed different issues, and I'm not sure if she discussed the IQ level of children, but I think she did. So, the IQ level of the child should be above a certain range for them to study or to deal with the regular academic rigor, that the board curriculum demands. So that needs to be there. In case that is there, then they can be enrolled in a. Nothing can stop them from being enrolled in a regular school. But if a child has profound disabilities, cognitive issues, then probably a special needs school is the best for them. Uh, so I think parents or teachers are not the best people here to decide that. Uh, this should all be done in consultation with verified, certified clinical psychologist or a developmental psychiatrist or the pediatrician. All these people need to be a part of that discussion for them to really decide on this. And in case the parents are hell bent on putting the child in a special school, um, I suppose making them understand the benefits of uh, having a child, or giving them examples of children around them, or a lot of people in this world who have overcome difficulties, or are doing well for themselves, can help. So yes. Okay. High expectations means that all students have that the teacher has high expectations of all students. That just because you have a particular disability doesn't mean that you will be not expected to excel, or you'll not be expected to excel in it. You'll not be given the easy way. So that's what I meant by high expectations. Like universal design for learning keeps high expectations. Is IEP developmental team paying content? IEPs, as you know, is uh, individualized education plan. Yes, it plays an important role in inclusive practices. IEP is generally is always actually prepared by a special educator who evaluates the child individually and then prepares a plan for him, which is followed in the classroom by the parents at home, by the special educator, the therapist. Everything is put in that. So of course it has a very important role in inclusive education, and it is ideal that a child has an IEP who has special needs. But I know the reality in India, and there is um, a problem with schools wanting special educators, or there being a lack, whatever the reason might be, there aren't any special educators. So yes, that's not currently happening, but I would like that more. Should the assessment method and level be same for students with special need and regular learning? Um, well, assessment method, not necessarily. Level also not necessarily. I'll come to this in a little bit, and I'll show you how that can be managed. Um, I'll come to this later in the presentation. We have to set different question
I
papers
think
for the
this is a
same.
related question again.
Yes, I'll come to that. Yeah. I'll come to that later in the presentation. Teachers are under pressure for syllabus completion. How to overcome that? I guess there should be some flexibility in the syllabus, yes, and the mode of assessment. Well, there is already a lot of flexibility. If you are in a CBSE school, CBSE offers a lot of flexibility in the mode of assessment, and even with the syllabus, I suppose, because I was working with Amity, and a lot of teachers there really had a free hand, at least till the eighth grade, in the mode of assessments, and there was no rigidity related to that. So there is flexibility with, I mean, schools, boards are trying to do that, but at the end of the day, I suppose, we are all bound by the board curriculum, and everyone has to perform there. So you also have to keep that in mind. You have to train the child to be independent by, so that they can independently uh, course the ninth and 10th grades on their own, given the provisions that are already there for them by given by schools. There are flexibility and provisions. Some parents don't accept that their child is special child. Okay, so of course this is very common, and it's pretty natural also. Eh, It's a problem, and it's a big thing, and not everyone uh, you know finds it easy to. It's a loss. It's a difficult thing to face. When you feel that some parents feel guilty themselves that they might have done something wrong, and it's a very psychologically difficult thing to deal with. So I think the best way to of it is to be gentle and to give them time. How about language-based learning disability? Does that question disappear? Students to uplift and study new ideas. Um, I'll get to those. Uh, I'll get to those ideas later on. Can I move ahead now? Because are the questions over?
Yes, I think we've covered most of the questions. Yeah,
Okay.
we've covered most of questions.
All right. So I'm going to move ahead now. Okay. Okay, so this is what I sort of was expecting a question to be, so I did this. That what is the difference between UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and differentiation? So UDL and differentiation are more or less the same thing, because everything just it sort of converges into one thing. But in UDL, it can benefit all. So differentiation is mostly addressed to specific students and their learning styles and their needs, but in UTL, you design a whole lesson and it is delivered to everyone in the class. So it's not specifically that you are giving this child a separate thing. So there is no separation here. And I'll tell you, I'll come to how you can do that later on. Okay. Next, how do all these theories fit together? All these theories, they come together in an inclusive classroom in which learning and the environment is designed for all students. Right? So all these theories that we can give. So now, how we can use the principles of universal design for learning for inclusive practices. We are going to do both on, because a lot of us are teaching online these days. So I have tried to put in inclusive practices for teaching online. But first we move to offline. So this is a framework for lesson design in UDL that I have taken from the UNICEF document, which I have put on the Padlet. It is a sort of a guideline for how to design lessons in universal design for learning, which was also a webinar booklet by the UNICEF. So it contained this. It explains it very nicely on how you start designing. So first, the content will be taught. The teacher decides what he or she will teach. Then you come to the presentation and you start thinking about, as you remember, different means of presentation. So, so you start thinking about how to give input to different students in the class, like how everyone is catered to. Then response, how the students will respond to it. So when I am asking them for feedback, or when I'm asking them a question, do I give them all the time? Do I ask them to answer it orally, or can I ask one time? I can ask them to give me a drawing and put it up on their copies, or sometime one time I can ask them to come and perform on the stage. Some of them, in a way, it addresses everyone in the class. Engagement, what are the different ways I will engage the students in this lesson? And finally, assessment, how will I assess uh, the students for this lesson, minimizing the influence of disability, if any, in the class. So multiple means of representation. So this is a learning. I'm just giving you an example. Learning style, for example, this is again taken from the UNICEF booklet. So later on, there are many more things in there. You can go through them later on. But just an example: visual learner, person who learns more visually, that's their learning style. Or even learners who have hearing impairment, because they rely more on vision. So objects and pictures, photographs, like you must have seen, I've used a lot of them here. Auditory learners, including learners with visual impairments. So, so a lot of children learn in an auditory manner. So what can you do? You can give them lecture-based audio recording of lectures, audio books, text-to-speech software. I'm going to show you some software later on. Kinesthetic learners, hands-on learning, touching objects, tactile, graphics, project-based learning. Culturally diverse learners, culturally relevant materials and instruction methods. So some examples of representation to different materials. So this is an example. This child is using audiobooks. These days audiobooks are available online as well. There is this website called archive.org, which has all old, non-copyrighted textbooks, which children are generally, like Black Beauty, etc. there, and children can download them and listen to them. So audiobooks. I have listed a lot of these websites and everything in the Padlet. You'll get them later on. Tactile books. Tactile books have textures in them. Representation through classroom management. So brain breaks. So this term called synapse was used to describe these periodic rests that are needed to sort of re-energize the neuron trans, because I've been speaking for now 45 minutes straight, and you've been listening to me. Ideally, I would have stopped somewhere in the middle and had more interaction, but given our constraints, you're not doing that. But in a classroom, you can do that. Um, so periodic rests are needed to replenish the neurotransmitters so that our executive functions in the brain, they function properly. So the idea behind it is 1 to 2 minutes break. 1 to 2 minute break should be worked into lessons every 15 minutes. So you can do anything. You can have students move around or stretch or dance or use the bathroom. This is an idea that is there, where there are different things written on a popsicle stick. So you can ask a child, especially a child who is more active in class, to come and pick that up, and they have to do that for 2 minutes, and then they come and sit back down. There is a free resource in the Padlet, which is a PDF that has different uh, brain break ideas, right? Then there is the 10 is to 2 theory, or chunk and chew theory, in which says that uh, uh, when you're planning your lesson, make sure that after every 10 minutes of teaching, you give 2 minutes of time for processing. So processing time could be, uh, anything that you ask the students to share one new idea with a classmate, you write one sentence or a question, draw an illustration, find a pattern, etc., etc. And lesson plans and note sheets, like I've given an example here, they can be modified to add that processing time. Okay, representation through technology, ebooks and other e-texts that are available online. I have added a link to bookshareindia.org in my Padlet, which is a website that offers uh, ebooks of a wide variety in different regional Indian languages as well to children with students with print disabilities, learning disability or visual disability, and even physical disabilities. So you can access that. Um, okay, next is note taking app. So what happens if a child has difficulty writing? We why force them to write? CBSE now allows students to have computers and even write exams, board exams on computers. So the day is not far away when it will be allowed everywhere in India and other boards as well. So this is a note-taking app. I have for other such apps, you can visit the app store, and there is a link on the Padlet that has 11 such apps by understood.org, which, by the way, is a wonderful website. It has a lot of wonderful articles and has a lot of simulations also that are actually like a game. When you play, you can pick out different issues of a child and you can play them like a game and see what it is like to be in the shoes of a child. Understood.org. I have put the link on the panel. Okay, representation to executive function. So timers. So this is very interesting. We you can use timers not for everyone, but for some children who need timers. So there was a very interesting line I read about it where this teacher was asked by a student that why does he have a timer on his table? So she said that some of us have inbuilt timers, right? But till some of us don't have it. So till the time we have that develop that inbuilt timer, we will use a real timer for it. So it's a very simple way to answer that question. So the timers are a good tool for children who have problem, understanding how much time is needed for this. So if they see that, it will help them. Not for everyone, but for some children. Multiple means of action and expression. Students with speech difficulties, including students who prefer to write, ask them to write more, journal, writing stories or poems. Students who are verbally expressive. Remember, this is action and expression, which means the output that you will get from the students, the response that you will get. So students who are verbally expressive or students who are writing challenges can discuss ideas in class, or they can uh, present a small extemporary speech in class about the topic. A lot of other things. Students with complex physical disabilities. Okay, so as someone was asking that what if someone has a lot, very severe disabilities with daily living tasks. So I'm sure that even after the daily living task therapy is completed, they will have issues if they have, for example, paralysis and they can't move their hands and feet. So you can use eye gazing at correct information. You can give them scribes. You can, if they can move their hands a little bit, you can give them, give their like iPad. You can give them an iPad with voice to text option in it. So students, and all these are very easily available online, because I'm just going to. I know this sounds very technologically advanced, but it's not. It's very easily available online. I've mentioned all the links in the Padlet that you'll get later on. Students who need time to think before responding, including second language learners. So you provide time to students to construct responses before sharing with teacher or other classmates very intuitive and very simply. So now this is how you can encourage action and expression through materials. These are different writing supports, right? There is a pencil grip there. There is a different kind of there are also these wrist traps that children who have a weakness in their hands, in the wrist, or whose hands start paining easily. They can get these wrist wraps and these pencil grips. They are all available on in India only on Amazon. There is also the site called nerdy.com and other such sites. You Google, you will find out. Highlighted or raised line paper, different writing utensils, paper stabilizers, etc. Okay. Then these are universal tools. These are scissors that can be accessed even by children who don't have fine motor control. That's a talking calculator for children with visual impairment. Um, okay, action and expression through technology. Photo essays are a good way to get children to express themselves without having them write a lot, or getting them to uh, give wordy essays. You can ask them to click photographs. You can ask them to give a presentation. So that can be done to assess them in a test. Action and expression through content instruction. So this is an example of a child who was asked to you know, answer or to give his responses using drawings. So these are the different drawings that he has made. One is of maths, and the other one is science. And I think they were doing the skeletal system or something in that. So um, different ways that you can get children to express themselves. This is not assessment, by the way. I'm just talking about expression, on making sure that the children engage with the material, have engaged, and they are now giving you a response, right? Giving you some output. Okay, now appropriate. Now this is social interaction. So now, whenever we say responses, it's not always yes or no. Do you get it? Yes. Do you get it? No. So these are. It's not always so black and white for a student, just like it's not for us. So strategy for this is making a response scale, in class, and giving it numbers, so the student can also respond with that different intensity. And once they are familiar, students can be prompted to give the number, and they can, like, you can do it both ways. It can even be used as an input. So there are levels of sound in the class. So 1 to 5. So one is like whatever whispers, and the last one is screaming. So you can write different levels there, and once you want to get the children to be at a certain level, you just give them the prompt and they will do that. These prompts and signals really work with children. Action and expression to executive functions. Now, someone was saying, how do we customize, or how do we change the lesson, or do we change everything? So no, we don't need to change everything for the children, but yeah, a little bit of help might, a little bit of guidance always helps. So for children, for example, who have a problem with learning disability or reading problems, you can enlarge the fonts. You can always make the paper. I'll show you other ways in which you can um, make. You can make reading screens where the child can only see that particular line. I'll show you an example later on. This is a template which a lot of writing is not just about you start writing on a page. You have to write your name, then or in some cases write your date, then the class work, and then everything that you do on the notebook. Sometimes you just give them, children who have problems with that, or remembering all that and keeping the ideas they have in mind. By the time they finish all that, the ideas are gone. So for those children, you can give them a ready-made template, right? So it's not going to harm them if you give them a template with boxes in it. It's just going to give them more structure. Some children do need that structure. So uh, giving them such templates really helps for their written work. Okay, multiple means of engagement. Children are unmotivated to engage in learning activities. Strategies to provide choices within the classroom, increase opportunities for peer-based learning, and ensure learning tasks is at an appropriate level of difficulty. Students who love to move don't like to sit on the chair. This is a problem, learning challenge. So in my class, of course, mine is special education class, but I've seen this done in regular classes as well. Giving them gym balls, or those large balls to sit on, they really enjoy it and they really focus as well. So some children do need it. Students are not don't want to participate in class. How to engage them? This is a learning challenge. So be flexible in expectations for participants. Don't force anyone for anything. Give people more choices. Choices are the key word here. Always give a lot of choices. So whenever you're asking them, um, of course, it doesn't mean that you will confuse the children or go away from your lesson. But whenever you are asking them to give a response or engage themselves, you can always say that I want half the children or those who want can come here to this station and work with me personally, work in teams. And there are some children who don't want like to work in teams. They can work alone. They can work on the side. So this is a very simple way to engage students by not forcing them to always sit in groups. Right? It's not everyone's style. Students don't like to practice sums or alphabetic notebooks. Give tactile practices, allow use of laptops and tablets. It's allowed by all by the government these days. You can't really stop someone. It's just like saying that I can't see, but I'm not allowed to wear glasses, my spectacles. So if someone can't write because of a genuine cerebral palsy or something like that, which inhibits his writing, then you are allowed laptop for that. Okay. Engagement through materials, fidget toys. Fidget toys is actually a lot of we used to do this in school and teachers used to take them away from us. Even today, when children play with these things, we take them away. But the reality is that some students really need it to focus. So once we allow these things in class and once we give it a really uh, you know valid and a legal sort of a view, then misuse of these things will stop. Children will know that these things are there to help them focus and not to create distraction. So the idea is to help these children work with these fidget toys to enhance their learning, right? Because when children, like I am a very fidgety person, so I always need something in my hands to keep twirling or doing something when I'm thinking. A lot of us have that habit, or some of us just doodle and do that. So these stimulates the research. Proper neurological research has shown that fidget toys help communication between both sides of the brain. They stimulate the release of chemicals, and stress balls can also provide the the physical and the sensory stimulation that you need to focus your attention on a particular thing. So if a child is continuously doing this, he'll probably uh, resolve his need for sensory stimulation by doing something more distractive and he'll be focused on your class more. Okay, writing surfaces. Providing different options of writing surfaces. You can see in this image here, there are different writing surfaces given to children. You can experiment with them as much as you want. There are lots of examples online. Engagement through technology. Video conferencing, all of us are aware of this. Engagement through content instruction. This is an example of how a child is engaged in writing numbers using rice, and a lot of Montessori schools and kindergarten students, they do that, and you can even do it later on for like slightly older children like us, because it's just a nice relaxing activity for everyone. Okay, mnemonics, using mnemonics. So King, that the King Henry died, mother didn't care much. That metrics thing and different. So mnemonics always help children remember these things. Engagement to executive functions. Using visual cues. So visual cues help students to follow steps in the classroom, take a break, ask for help, etc. etc. So if a child, if you have these, I think I have, I forgot to repeat this. But visual cues are basically when even when you design your timetable, instead of just putting the name of the class, you can always put maths a little picture of a symbol there. In dance, you can put a dancing girl. So visual cues always help. If it's a reading time, you can make such a icon and put it there. And these visual cues really help children, just like those universal visual signages help everyone. Multiple means of assessment. Okay, so now someone was asking me about assessments. So what we can do is we can adapt tests for accessibility and accurate evaluation. So how can we adapt tests for accessibility? Unfortunately, I don't have so much time that I really tell you how many different ways that you can adapt. But if you can just go to the websites that I have mentioned in my Padlet, especially the Universal UB and CAST website, it gives you a lot of ways in which you can adapt tests for accessibility. Um, Very simple ideas might be highlighting particular questions that you want the student to do first, giving them, those reading scales that I'll show later on, retesting, retesting, of course, we all do, computer practice tests, Khan Academy, and so many websites are there that are free for all, and children really enjoy giving practice tests there. So giving them those practice tests before giving them the actual test, activities with products like this, you can also take a formative assessment if you're doing something, say for example with numbers, you can give them uh, an exercise where they have to, say for instance, make different combinations of particular uh, groupings of particular sums or numbers. Entry and exit responses, you can make as many times, as many ways of that. Offering a choice through homework menus. Homework menus are a great idea to give multiple means of assessment to children, where um, just Google homework menus on um, um, on the internet, and you will find a lot of examples of how teachers have done that. Giving students a whole page where it's like a menu where they can pick from a great range of options on what they want to do. So everyone's needs are addressed, and your job is also easily valuable to assist them. Family projects, peer groups. This is self-explanatory. Okay. Um, Adaptive tests. Now, if I don't know if it's that visible, but here it says, in this picture, there are three questions and two questions, and here the teacher has marked and written choose one. Right? So you're given that student choice of one. Maybe because the child takes more time to write. So you will give him marks for that one question if he writes it properly. If he writes the answer to that one question, circle the three items in this. What the teacher has done, circle the three items to be graded. So there are five questions, but you are giving the child the option that you can choose the best three that you want me to mark you on. Right? So here again you are given the child an option. In this you have highlighted. No, this is something else I cannot remember. Okay, but once you Google online, you will find a lot of these adapted examples, especially on UBL website, UBL official website. Okay, the Universal Design for Learning Solutions format. There is an editable text or editable Word document in the Padlet. I've just given an example here uh, on how you can design learning solutions for your class. So when you start with presenting new information, how when you are presenting new information to your students, what are the challenges that the student will face? So there might be a student who will have problems with new concepts or vocabulary. So, what are the solutions that you can come up with? So, use PowerPoint to introduce and revise new concepts. So, this is one. Then, student is distractible and misses information. Provide guided notes at multiple levels. Give the student fidget toys if that works for them. So, you have to really understand your children and make sure that you give, when you are teaching, you give everyone what they need, and then you teach. It's like making that perfect recipe for a class. Okay. Now, tips to make. Oh, and by the way, this is UBS solution format. There is also a link in the Padlet which has a step-by-step plan format to plan your lessons. That's a PDF form, and that was taken from understood.org, which is very detailed. This was a more simpler one because I wanted to cover it fast, so I just did this. Okay, this is the last section. Tips to make. Now we come to online, right? Because a lot of us are teaching online. What are the ways to make online content accessible to all your students and to everyone? So design for all types of learners. Choose a dark, fairly large font. 11 points or higher. That's easier to read. Avoid using the tab and space bar keys to lay out headings. So use the headings and the styles that are there in your in the formatting. Don't like add tabs and space. A lot of people, instead of going to the the center spacing uh, center spacing bar, they actually press space that many times to put the heading in the center. Now this becomes difficult because when a text-to-speech reader is reading it, say for example you have a blind student or maybe a student who has difficulty reading, when they use that software, all these issues will come up and the headings will not be read properly. The different levels of the document will not be read properly. So use the style and paragraph settings in MS Word or other such programs to make the text friendly for text-to-speech software to read. Okay. Insert meaningful hyperlinks. Okay. Instead of something like click here, right? So to see the seven wonders of one of the seven wonders of the world, click here. So if you just write click here on the blank page, the child will not understand. Like if it's a reader, a text to speech reader, they will look at the hyperlink, they will not understand what is going to be there. So something like Taj Mahal and then you provide a link to that, hyperlink to that is more descriptive. So have more descriptive hyperlinks. Caption your videos. Okay, I wanted to caption what was it called, the PPT as well, but then I realized that it's going to go on YouTube, which has auto captions. So even PowerPoint, by the way, has captions. If you go here and you go to subtitle settings, sorry, no, not subtitle settings. Here, this thing, it starts subtitles, starting subtitles. So, but I don't need to have subtitles. So, okay. I hope the screen is back to visible. It shows that it is showing my video. Okay. If you wish to upload your video to YouTube, there is a Google support page that tells you how to caption your video. Um, you can just go to Google and type in how to caption your videos, and it will show you exact process on how to caption your YouTube videos. A very good idea is to also, you can sometimes also put small little clips of yourself teaching a particular topic, like a mini snippet, and put it on YouTube and share it with your students so that they have time at their own leisure to, especially in these days, to sort of like go through it on their own. So that's one way to use technology for university learning. Okay, minimize the amount of text on a page. Use as little text as possible. Don't crowd the page. Um, avoid relying on a single sensory cue. So the main thing to remember is that understanding of the content should not depend on being able to see color or hear sounds. So if a child is not able to, if a child is color blind and not able to see the red, they will completely miss this. So you need to add other cues as well. So I put a circle there, I put an arrow to make the student understand that the girls sit on the teaching chair. What are the issues with this sentence? There is one dramatic clue and one spelling error. If you just put a red here, maybe a child with color blindness will not even see it, or a child with a learning disability will not understand what it means. Why has it been made red? Okay. Add image description to visuals. Now this is something called alt text. Okay. Um, so when you click on an image, um, I just wanted to check. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible, ma'am.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you
it is
can
visible.
all right. Yeah. So you can click on all text and you can go here. So I right click all text. I click on edit all text, and it says how would you describe this object and its context to someone who is blind. So every time you add an image, you are expected. You should write down what the image is about, because when a text-to-speech reader is reading it, they will read this alt text for describing the image to a visually impaired person. So as you can see here, I have written a picture of Taj Mahal in Agra, one of the seven wonders of the world. Right? So if there is a visually challenged person going through this PowerPoint presentation using the text-to-speech software, they will get this alt text reading read out to them to make them understand Another important thing is, I'll mention it later on, but I'll just show you right now. All these things, they have a check for accessibility thing. So how you will go to that is, you will go to file, info, check for issues, and then you click on check accessibility. So here it shows accessibility, how accessible is a document for everyone. So all MS Word documents, MS Office documents have that. Even otherwise, online also Google Docs also has it. Accessibility checkers are also available for websites, and I mean, it's basically there for most things. So you will find a way to check whether your document is accessible to everyone or not. Okay. Um, Now, um, background. Okay, sufficient color contrast is very important, right? If you look at an inaccessible slide to the left, here they have put an orange background, and on top they have put blue, which is, and then especially the green one is totally mixing in with that, with the orange. It's very difficult for someone who already has problem with alphabets to actually make this out. So always make sure your color contrast is high. There are also, contrast checkers online. You can just go online and type color contrast checkers and type in the color that you have used and see if it is if it is accessible enough, or if it is good enough. It is good enough color contrast. And if you use a background image or pattern, make sure that it doesn't make the overlaying text illegible. If you are using a picture in the background, then make sure that whatever is there on top, whatever is written on top is not illegible. It is easy to read. Okay, accessibility checkers, I just showed you. Any software used to create post content should have a native tool in button, a tool built in to check for accessibility. So I just showed you what is there in MS Office, in MS PowerPoint. Similarly, it is there in Word and Excel as well. And for other software as well, you have to go to the one that you want. Visually accessible text. Okay, so now this is a Courier new text. Okay, a lot of people have said that they find Courier new more easy to read, even though it is a like, there are two kinds of fonts: sans serif and serif fonts. Sans serif fonts, L is written like one line, like Arial font, if you have used Arial font. And in serif, there is like there is a distinction, like P is like this, L has a little line at the bottom. So L and I are a little different in how to look. So whatever makes for easy reading for your children, please choose that font. Don't choose the more fancy one, or the one that looks good, because at the end of the day it needs to be readable. Inform and encourage students to use other tech tools online. Layout simplifier. Okay, this is a wonderful tool that I'm just going to give you a demo of. Um, I have it installed. It is called Just Read. So if I open any page online, for example, Wikipedia, and I go to this Just Read. It's a Chrome extension, so it's there on Chrome. So I just click on Just Read, and you see how I'll share the screen with you. Just check if you're able to see it. Okay, so this is the screen using Just Read software. You can see how the page became so decluttered. If I close this, it's back to that cluttered book where it is so much text that it becomes confusing for a child. So the Just Read software just makes it, like the fonts are large and everything is in one line. It's very clean and neat and clean to read. Okay, then there is also something called Google Dictionary, which is also a Chrome extension. You click on something and it will show you the definition. Okay, so P, no definition is found. But okay, species, a group of living organisms. So it automatically comes when you highlight it and click on it. So this is another extension that's there on Google Chrome. Another great tool that is there is okay. So this is something called my study bar that is there. So um, my study bar is this little tool that is available for free of cost. I have mentioned the link on how to download it in the Padlet. There are other software also completely free and open source. So here you see reading, right? So this is very good, right? There is view bar screen ruler that I was talking about. So when you do view bar and screen ruler, like this comes along. So for children with reading disability, it's very like all these words become mixed up, like the bottom line and the top line. So a tool like this, where there is a gap in the middle, so the child can just, I'll show you in that. So for example, the great spotted woodpecker, the first line, it separates from the rest of it, so it's easy. Then I go down to the next line, and it's easy for me to differentiate this line and read it, especially for a child with dyslexia. So this is one tool. There are a lot of other tools. Screen tint. A lot of children have problems with high contrast also while doing it. So if you want to have screen tint, this will give a small. This will make the screen contrast easy on the eyes and not very sharp for the student. Screen masking. Like you want to mask this and make it highlighted. So that can also be done. There are other tools for voice, vision. It will change the font. I don't want to do that. Planning, there is a mind mapping software. This is a study bar is a very nice tool for children who want, you know, in one place, a lot of tools in one place. This is a mind mapping software where the child can make a mind map of a particular topic. So for example, if it's about the woodpecker, so they can start out working on a mind map here. So this is another tool, my study bar. They can also have text to voice here, talking word processor. Okay, sorry. Yeah, in this,
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. So it's just a quick time check. It's 6:45. So by when are you planning to wind up, ma'am?
this is the second last. It's about to get over. This is the last thing that I'm going to
Sure,
talk.
sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure. Sure. I was also just glancing through any questions, but I think there aren't many questions in this part. So maybe we'll just take a quick look at it after that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So writing has a talking word processor where you can write whatever you want, and it will read it out. Um, reading has text reader in which you highlight a particular thing and click on this https://w and it reads it out. Okay, so this is my study bar. You can find out more about it from the Padlet. It's a free tool for everyone. So yeah, I'll just go back to the main presentation now. Okay, so online dictionary I already told you about. Text to speech and other features I told you about. Now there is a Padlet. Um, and then of course I had asked the question. I'll just share the Padlet with you once. I mean I'll show you the Padlet. Okay, so this is the Padlet. It contains a a lot of resources. Um, there is a free technology toolkit for UBL that has a lot of free technology apps. Understood.org. There is an ebook on creating inclusive learning friendly environments, um, and a booklet, the booklet that I was talking about from UNICEF, Bookshare India, apps to help students note taking, UBL guidelines, Universal Design for Learning guidelines, brain break cards, and free learning tools for UBL. I would encourage you to go to castcast.org and register for free. They have wonderful tools and great lesson plans there that you can use. Uh, that already have universal design implemented that you can modify for your class. This is a step-by-step lesson planner for UBL lesson. Um, so, yeah, so that's about it. Thank you so much. I know that this was a long session. I had a lot more to do, but I hope that it answered most of your questions.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, thanks a lot for the session, ma'am. I was going through the comments, and everyone was really appreciative of the fact that you shared so much information with us, and also this is quite pertinent, I would say, given our tendency to attach labels to kids. This indeed is quite a pertinent was a pertinent session. So, I mean, thank you once again, ma'am. Thank you, thanks a lot for agreeing to do this, and I'm sure that all of us really found this helpful, and the video recording is going to be available on our YouTube channel. And anyone who missed the
Okay.
session, please, you could come back and take a look at it. If you would want to refer parts of it, if you would want to share it with your friends, we'd encourage you to do that. Thanks a lot.
And
Thanks a
Karthik,
lot, everyone. Have a
Karthik,
great day. Yeah.
Karthik, I have one more request. If
Yes.
I had a Google form which had a self-reflection 4 questions for the teachers. So if you can just post the link to the form on the site
Sure.
as well, sending it
Absolutely.
to you
We'll.
on the private
Yeah.
chat. Right?
Sure. Sure. I'll do that, ma'am. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day ahead.